people don't with Israel any longer, and if Jews in America keep putting this idea out there that they are singularly invested in Israel, eventually someone's going to come around and take action, not against the state of Israel, mind you, but against American Jews.
Yeah, Lawrence, I don't want to be in the tent with the guy who's trying to kill me. You know, I am just not interested in that. And there are many very strongly pro-peace, pro-Palestinian people who belong in that tent. But Hasan Piker, he's trafficking in hate speech.
So let's once again discuss yet another story about, also known in the King's English as Abdul El-Sayed, but he has apparently asked us to pronounce his name in the original fashion, so there you have it. But basically, to nobody's surprise, Hasan Piker, his BFF, is once again getting him into trouble and causing more scandal, controversy, and outrage and backlash. Because as usual, Hasan Piker is not only just a evil person with evil ideas, but likewise is also kind of a stupid person who has very low impulse control and absolutely no understanding of political strategy. And so, to make a long story short, in typical Hasan fashion, he's gone out and said yet more stupid, crazy, radical, outlandish things that now are even drawing the ire of other Michigan Democrats who are basically coming out and demanding that Abdul El-Sayed disavow Hasan Piker. So there's this little drama going on because, let me just say, Hasan said some stuff about the Jewish Democrats in the state who already are kind of skeptical about supporting El-Sayed for certain obvious reasons. And so it's caused this whole situation because we have Hasan Piker basically pissing off some Jewish Democrat politician in the state of Michigan, and then going on to actually, I kid you not, kind of rationalize terrorism and hate crimes against Jewish people by the same logic that he used to say America deserved 9/11. Yeah, like, you know, the normal Hasan Piker type of stuff. And obviously that's kind of what drew the backlash from the Jewish Democrats in the state, Jewish Democrat leaders in the state saying, hey, Abdul El-Sayed, you need to go out and condemn this. And then guess what? Abdul El-Sayed did not do, condemn this. So anyways, let's talk about it, guys. First, do us a favor. If you enjoy our content, make sure you hit that like button down below. Subscribe to the channel if you are new. And that said, so here's Hasan Piker, kind of the clip that partially started this all. First of all, he kind of accused Jeremy Moss, this Jewish Democrat in the state, of, you know, having sort of dual loyalty or whatever. But the big clip here was that he told American Jews to stop supporting Israel or someone will, quote, come around and take action, not against Israel, but against American Jews. So, you know, pretty transparently, what that either is a threat or, you know, he could try to play it off and say, no, it's like me saying America deserved 9/11. I'm just explaining to you what's going to happen. Okay, that's still a rationalization of terrorism, right? That's still, like Abdul El-Sayed said about Islamic terrorists, like hurt people. And you're trying to kind of empathize with and, you know, say, oh, well, this happened because of this. And so the inherent accountability should not be on the terrorist who did it. So, you know, understand that is what is going on here. And just given the nature of Hasan Piker's kind of a broader audience, and we know the behavior they get up to, I mean, this could easily be interpreted as an attempt at sarcastic terrorism, as are many things that leftists say. But nonetheless, okay, so take a listen. And by the way, keep in mind, this is coming from a Democrat campaign surrogate, because as I said, the guy has such low impulse control, even when he's basically now this campaign ambassador, this figure still doesn't learn to shut his stupid mouth, right? But in a sense, that's a gift to us because, hey, at least he's being honest with people. At least he's telling you exactly who he is and what he stands for. So in that sense, thank you, Hasan Piker. But anyways.
And you want to know why? Because people don't fuck with Israel any longer. And if Jews in America keep putting this idea out there that they are singularly invested in Israel, eventually someone's going to come around and take action, not against the state of Israel, mind you, but against American Jews. Okay? We're teaching people the wrong lesson. I don't know how people don't recognize how dangerous this predicament is, how dangerous this is for Jews. You're running around basically tying your entire identity to a country that inevitably will be seen as basically Jewish ISIS. And you're saying, as Jews, this is all we care about. You're making anti-Semitism worse.
Okay, so translation there to break down what he's obviously trying to say. Basically, this is the message, is that his coalition, if that's what you want to call it, whatever words you want to use for that, but because his coalition is full of violent people and terrorists and unstable people, if American Jews do not agree with his ideas, they are going to try to American Jews. That's the statement being made, right? And you could try to play that off as, well, I'm just trying to reflect on a reality. Like, if stuff happens in the Middle East, then there's going to be terrorism that comes over to here and stuff like that. But no, no, Hasan, that's not what you're trying to say, right? Because the actual question, therefore, should be, wait, why do those people exist in the first place? Why do the people who would commit said terrorism actually even have a place on U.S. soil? Okay? We probably know the answer to that, by the way. You know, it's the inherent contradiction of that old saying that the neocons brought to us that, oh, well, we're going to fight wars over there so we don't have to fight them here. And then they just brought them all here, right? I mean, I've said before, if there's any comment I would make to American Jews as a voting bloc, it would be, hey, I understand that you're very concerned about this anti-Semitism thing. I think you should, first of all, diagnose where it's coming from, okay? Because for a long time, the far right, quote unquote, was made the boogeyman of this stuff. You see, like, who's actually saying that stuff, right? And then secondly, through liberal voting patterns, in some way, you could argue that support of mass immigration and diversity, quote unquote, to begin with, has enabled this. Because this is how Hasan Piker, for example, among many others, among Abdul El-Sayed and others, right? You know, it should be a serious question as to, okay, I understand it's a concern, and it's a concern that's been around for thousands of years. I mean, we know what goes on over in the Middle East and all that, but why is it here? Why are we being forced to fight the sand wars over in this country, right? So, you know, by the way, what I'd point out, because people could try to say that, oh, he's just talking about Israel or something, why do you care, whatever, is that, again, that is the same rationalization he used for America deserved 9/11. He's the same one he implicitly uses, for example, to mock Charlie Kirk and his assassination recently, right? This is always what they do. So understand, like, this is the central premise behind all of it. He doesn't just say it about Jews. He says it in general. Basically, like, if you, for whatever reason, are a hindrance to his agenda of, like, global leftism and communism, then therefore, oh, well, don't you know, bro, people are going to try to kill you, right? People are going to try to you if that's the case. Yeah, so does that not prove that the people who would do that action are the bad guys here? That makes you the good guy? It makes you the good guy because your people are violent and target innocents and all that stuff, right? But I'm sure the real reason they care about Gaza is not because it's like this third world tribalistic thing. No, it's because they care about the genocide. They care about the slaughter of innocents. And then say something like that right there, right? Because it's about human life. It's about human rights. Again, it's not just like a third world tribalistic sand cause. I'm just saying, you know, that's sort of been our position on the Palestine movement the whole time, which is historically true about the Palestine movement. But anyways, okay, so long story short, right? You get the point. But that is the Hasan Piker comment and whatever that caused some backlash. So here we have Jeremy Moss, who is who's the actually Senate President pro tempore of Michigan for the Democrats. He's running for Congress in Michigan's 11th district. And Jeremy Moss, by my understanding, is apparently Jewish. So here's what he came out and said. He was not happy about this Hasan Piker thing. And by the way, Hasan Piker himself came out and attacked Jeremy Moss in sort of the same fashion. So he said, since the primary election, Abdul and I have been in continual dialogue in our shared fight against MAGA extremism. Because according to this guy, despite Hasan Piker being a prominent figure on your campaign trail, the real problem is the MAGA extremism, right? Don't you know? They're the Nazis. They're against the Jewish people, guys. What are you even talking about? But anyways, okay. So we have also talked about Jewish and Arab safety and security, both here at home in Michigan and in the Middle East. Coexistence among all of our communities is essential for the future prosperity of all Michiganders. I don't think that exactly works when certain communities are not actually interested in coexistence, but you know, this is a libtard we're talking with right here. So, you know, what do you expect, right? Like, this guy will complain about anti-Semitism and then be like, okay, let's keep on importing the anti-Semites into the United States. How does that make sense, right? It's like, are you serious about this or are you not, right? Because, like, I can actually empathize with that position. Like, if you are a Jewish person and you have this fear because you understand what they want to do to Jewish people in the Middle East and all that, like, I get it. But then if you turn around and say, okay, so let's bring all the Palestinian refugees to my neighborhood, what are you even talking about? How can we take you seriously as a voice that you can? Okay, but anyways, again, libtard, whatever, we get it, but just some I'd point out, like, keep that in mind. This is the inherent contradiction, okay? You cannot be a Jewish Democrat virtue signaling about Nazism and anti-Semitism while you're saying import all the anti-Semites into the United States, okay? The illiberal third world migrants who are committing disproportionate rates of anti-Semitic terrorist attacks as well as terrorist attacks and crimes and just government welfare abuse and all of these things in general for the rest of America, right? It pisses me off. See, this guy's still here. That's why this guy's still here. It's like the coexistence of our communities, bro. Okay, libtard. Okay, right. But anyways, that's besides the point. These important conversations do not neatly fit into the confines of a tweet or a reel like so many want them to. I'm grateful that Abdul and I are having them. So that just means nothing. But anyways, there's still work to do to unite our ticket despite our differences. It won't happen overnight, et cetera, et cetera. But he here points out, provocateurs are exploiting this moment to create further divisions. And in a direct call out to Hasan Piker, he says, I will not be lectured by a California podcaster about what Oakland County, Michigan, their Jewish community should and shouldn't believe. And we certainly won't be gaslit that we're responsible for the anti-Semitic harm upon us. The attempted murder of Jewish children in West Bloomfield has no justification. I agree, by the way. And as a Democrat and a believer in the Constitution, I will never agree with Mike Rogers' dangerous election denial. Okay, so here's the unseriousness, right? Backing of ICE's cruelty. Huh. So ICE are the real Nazis, though, right? They're the real bad guys, not the people who are actually committing the anti-Semitic hate crimes, right? But anyways, in obedience to Donald Trump and blah, blah, blah. Let me be clear. I'm not supporting Rogers, but he kind of hints not maybe willing to publicly endorse El-Sayed, at least at this time, because he's really not happy about what Hasan Piker had to say. Okay. So now if you're Abdul El-Sayed, people can sit there and pretend as if, because that's what the online crowd loves to say, is that everybody's now against Israel or everybody's on our side, right? Not that the average voter is largely apathetic to Israel as an issue, which I actually believe to be the case. But no, everyone's like this hardcore Palestine activist, bro, because look how many likes we get on the internet, even though most of our audience is from the Middle East and stuff. But anyways, right? But here's the reality if you're Abdul El-Sayed, is that you do still have a lot of, let's say, white suburban voters that are not really down with this stuff. Okay, they're not down with Hasan Piker. They'll hear a comment like that, bloodthirsty, blah blah blah, and it's off-putting. It's politically toxic. You do also, by the way, there are Jewish voters in Michigan. Okay, they do exist, and by the way, if you know anything about Jewish voting patterns in America, they're largely Democrat. Okay, like Jews are a liberal-leaning voting bloc. So you would think in a swing state, let's not alienate them. Let's not totally piss them off. I'm already sort of establishing myself to be a far left guy, but no, instead, here is Abdul El-Sayed basically coming out, and I kid you not, as we hinted at, right, doubling down. So here's what he had to say. Quote, I believe all Americans deserve the right to advocate for what they believe without a fear of violence. And that, by the way, is about all Abdul El-Sayed will say in that direction, okay? But by the way, remember about terrorists, though, hurt people. So yeah, like it's wrong for a terrorist. It basically saying is like, yeah, it's wrong for a terrorist attack to happen. And I'm going to at least pretend as if, that's maybe the position I hold. But also we should basically have empathy for the terrorists and understand like why they got to this position and blah, blah, blah. And, it's not really their fault at the end of the day. We're not going to just call out the face of evil for what it is. Unless they're a white supremacist, right? But if they're an Arab or Muslim terrorist attacker for reasons it's a big mystery to all of us why he would say that. But, then it's hurt people. Then we should empathize with the terrorist, right? But, anyway, so he says that This is particularly true for communities that have been intimidated for their beliefs in the past. Quote, my commitment to Jewish safety is the same as my commitment to the safety of my own daughters. Whatever that's supposed to mean. Anti-Semitism is a scourge, and we need to address it in all forms. And I stand against any rhetoric that puts the community at risk. But then he goes on to basically do the same garbage he did in the Jesse Waters interview earlier today. Quote, but I want to be crystal clear. Nobody speaks for this campaign besides me and my campaign spokespeople. Okay, and, you know, Hasan Piker kind of has become an unofficial campaign spokesperson of yours, but I guess no. Hasan Piker doesn't speak for me all of a sudden, right? But here's where it gets even funnier. And while politicians and pundits try to make this race about a Twitch streamer, we're going to be talking about gas, groceries, good schools, healthcare, blah, 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 because that's what Michiganders keep asking about. That's why I'm fighting to get money out of politics, money in your pocket, and Medicare for all. Which is, of course, hilarious because as we just covered in the Jesse Waters video, when he's actually cornered on an issue like Medicare for all, he, you know, the issues he claims, oh, it's just a distraction. They won't ask me about the real issues because this is what Michiganders care about. He couldn't even answer basic questions, give basic information. He still was deflecting and doing the same crap, but that is still the core excuse, right? Why are you trying to make this race about a Twitch streamer, about issues that people don't care about? Well, I don't know. I mean, I feel like terrorism and crime are actually issues that people care about, but still, regardless, Abdul, you know why people are making this race about a Twitch streamer? Because you made the race about a Twitch streamer, right? He knew exactly what he was doing, inviting Hasan Piker, hanging out with him, fist bumping him, having him all over the campaign trail, extended coverage with all of it, taking pictures together, buddy, blah, blah, blah. And, you know, clearly you can tell on just a personal level, they're friends. I mean, that's something basically everyone knows and understands, right? And then all of a sudden, you know, he's basically saying, how dare you actually bring up something that I'm doing, right? No, it's the same thing as like when Francesca Hahn got mad that people are bringing up things that she actually said. You know, it's one thing to play the guilt by association of, oh, let's draw this long web where it's like, you know, you talk to this person who said that about that person who said this, and then that means you're connected to this person you never met. That's not what we're doing. We're directly citing, Abdul, your own words and your own friends who you closely are being buddy-buddy with. Folks, not even, for example, Zoran Mamdani on the campaign trail in New York City got this close and promoted Hasan Piker this much as Abdul El-Sayed. But suddenly now, after doing this and knowing exactly what he was doing and, you know, why that was all happening, he's upset because people are tying him to Hasan Piker. Oh, why are you making the race about a Twitch streamer? I don't know, because that's what you did, right? Should we use the Hasan Piker logic? Hey, you know, Abdul, you can't keep on associating with Hasan Piker without expecting people to associate you with Hasan Piker, right, bro? Right? You know? Isn't that how it works? Isn't that how Hasan Piker just told us it works, by the way, right? Even though, you know, in our sense, we're not even advocating for violence. We're just saying, yeah, if you hang out with somebody, people are going to associate you to be with that person. And when you, by the way, refuse to condemn them repeatedly, same exact story. So anyways, a good friend of mine, John Doyle, check out his show, by the way, literally one of the best conservative commentators in the world today, I would add. But anyways, he responded pretty fittingly here. He says, this is not about a Twitch streamer, regardless of how you'd like to insult the intelligence of the American electorate. This is about how out of the hundreds of millions of people we have in our country, you have a strong association with someone who has said emphatically that we deserve 9/11. By the way, this one is slam dunk right here. If you actually cared about Americans, as you mean to imply by your rhetoric concerning affordability, you would have nothing to do with anybody who says that, obviously. Correct. Curiously, however, while claiming to care about Americans, you do. And you refuse to explicitly denounce him in his rhetoric. Todd Beamer, by the way, this guy right here, this hero, the American hero who famously led the Let's Roll charge against the Flight 93 hijackers, was from Michigan. Knowing he couldn't save his own life that day, he made the heroic decision to at least save hundreds more. As a Michigan voter, I'd like to know, did Todd Beamer deserve to die? And what do you think of people like Hasan Piker who answer yes to that? Yeah, exactly, right? So it is actually more than just a Twitch streamer. So just remember that. Anyways, Mike Rogers as well, the Republican nominee, also responds. So that's another no on disavowing Piker. Got it. What else do we have to say, right? He can deflect all he wants and say, oh, the campaign's about affordability, guys. Is it, though? You don't even explain how you're going to make anything more affordable. When we ask you, you can't even give an answer. So is it really about affordability or, well, something else? Anyways, that said, though, guys, let me know your thoughts. Be sure to leave a like on this video. Subscribe to the channel if you were new. And until next time, God bless and peace.